मैं डायरेक्ट मीट में गया था।
हाँ,
मैं डायरेक्ट मीट में गया था, क्लासरूम से नहीं।
क्लासरूम से जाना पड़ेगा क्योंकि एमडी फैकल्टी का एक फोल्डर रहता है क्लास का, स्पेसिफिक क्लास से।
तो एक्सेप्ट किया तो कोई नहीं है।
ঠিক আছো? হ্যাঁ, বলছি ঠিক আছো? ওকে।
কটা স্টুডেন্ট?
এটা 12টা। আপনি বসে বলবেন নাকি
না,
বোর্ডে?
লিখবে।
আমি বোর্ডে
চারজন জয়েন করছি। আমি জয়েন করলে মনে হচ্ছে ওই অ্যাডমিট করতে হবে, সৌদা চারজন করে দিছে। নজন মতলব একজন আপনি আর বাকি 8 জন জয়েন করেছে।
10 হয়ে গেলে কি করে? কেউ অ্যাডমিট তো করেনি এখন।
কেউ মানে ক্যালেন্ডার থাকলে ওনাকে অ্যাডমিট করতে হয় না, অটোমেটিক্যালি হয়ে যায়। ওনার কাছে যদি গুগল ক্যালেন্ডার থাকে, এই ইনভিটেশন তো পালে অটোমেটিক্যালি জয়েন হয়ে যায়। যার কাছে ক্যালেন্ডার থাকে না ওনাকে অ্যাডমিট করতে হয়।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা। 10 হয়েছে। ঠিক আছে, আমার রেকর্ডিং স্টার্ট হয়ে গেছে।
হ্যাঁ, স্টার্ট দিয়েছি। একটু কথা বলে দেখতে করে আমি শুনতে
হ্যাঁ
পাচ্ছি।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ। Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So only one person is left to join. So after that we can start. Okay, so I think we can start now. Okay, thank you.
ঠিক আছে।
Okay, so we'll start today's lecture now. So I hope all of you can hear me. So in the last class, we have seen the following result, that we have taken the propagator and we have taken the spatial integral of that, and we proved that we defined the function gt, which is defined in the following way: k q prime, and then we use the notation q prime t, q prime 0, and then we integrated it over all space. So this was the expression. You can see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it is visible to you, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we defined this function and we proved by inserting the expression of the propagator, we proved that this is basically equal to summation e to the power of minus I by h bar em into time t. So this was the result that we had proved in the last class. This was the last property that we proved. So as I mentioned in the last lecture, that I shall in today's class we shall start by taking a Fourier transform of this expression gt, this gt. So what we shall do is we shall define a function g of omega in the following way. It's equal to 0 to infinity gt e to the power of so we should take this expression. So we have defined a new function g of omega, which is basically nothing but Fourier transform of this function g of t. And we now insert this g of t over here and evaluate these expressions, see what you get. So this is equal to minus I by h bar integral 0 to infinity and gt is summation over m so this is what g omega is. Therefore this is equal to summation over m integral 0 to infinity dt e to the power of minus I by h bar so you can see that you can integrate this expression now. This expression you can integrate it, but there is a problem. The problem is that when you integrate this expression, you have to evaluate the final expression that you get after the integration from 0 to infinity. You have to evaluate the integral over this limit infinity and 0. These are the limits of this definite integral. And at the limit infinity, you see, you will get e to the power of minus I by h bar e plus em to infinity, which means, and there is a I sitting over here, which means that this is a rapidly oscillating kind of a function. So that is a problem in this expression. So what we do is the following. In order to evaluate this, in order to manage this limit infinity, what we do is we put yes.
Sir, I have a query. Sir, generally, sir, when we take the Fourier transform, so the limit is always from minus infinity to plus infinity.
Yes, here we are taking the limit, we are defining it like this. So you can say that this is something like a half Fourier transform. Okay. This is how you define the function g of omega. Okay.
Okay.
This is the definition. So we put the limit epsilon approaches 0 from the positive side. Then we have summation over 10 0 to infinity dt to the power of so you see that when we insert this factor of epsilon, we do it in this way, such that this minus minus this is plus and I into I this is minus. So this actually what we have done is there is a t over here. Mr. T over here. So actually what we have done, we have introduced a damping factor in the integral because epsilon approaches 0 from the positive side, therefore epsilon is greater than 0. Therefore by this factor is basically e to the power of minus epsilon by h bar t. So this is like a damping factor in the integral. So this will make the integral converge. Now you can just straight away evaluate this integral. It's easy to evaluate. Becomes summation over n. This is a very standard easy integral. So this will give us and you evaluate this using the limits 0 to infinity.
Sir, you have written dt twice.
Anyway, that is where did I write dt twice?
Sir, second last line.
The second last line.
Yes. Don't worry, you know what it is, right? Don't worry about things. You know what it is. So those are not important. If I write dt twice, you just correct in your notes. Okay. But you please tell me whether if I miss any sign or something, then please tell me. So g of omega therefore equal to, you can see this h bar and this h bar will cancel. This minus I minus this will become plus, and this I this will also go away. Okay, so this whole thing cancels. Therefore, what we have is limit epsilon 0 plus summation over n. Now, at the limit infinity, the result is 0. Why? Because epsilon is greater than 0. This is greater than 0. Therefore, e to the power of minus epsilon infinity. So that goes to 0. So the first factor is 0. And then we have at the limit 0, this exponential is 1. And therefore, what we have is we have a minus 1 divided by just a small correction. Let me define the function here. You just correct it in your notes also. This is just for convenience. You define the function in this way, without a minus sign. G of omega is minus I by h bar integral 0 to infinity e to the power of I by h bar e into t. Okay, you define it in this way, and then gt dt. I gave a minus sign over here. Just remove that minus sign. Fine. And then what we will have is there will be a minus sign over here. This will be a minus. This will be a minus. This will be a minus. This is also a minus. And now what we will have is, after evaluation, we have this. And we will also have e minus with a minus. This will become e minus em plus I epsilon. Now in the limit, now we shall put the limit. In the limit, epsilon going to 0, 0, on the positive side, we have this result. Okay. So what we have found is that from the function g of t, we can define a function g of omega, basically a Fourier transform kind of thing of this function g of t. And if you evaluate that function g of omega, you get something like this. So what it means is basically, you can see that looking at this expression has poles at here, right? for different values of m, this expression has poles at E is equal to En. Simple poles at E here. So if you just read off the poles of this expression, this will give us the energy eigenvalues of your system, of the Hamiltonian. So this is, so what it tells us, what this result tells us is that from the propagator you can actually calculate the energy eigenvalues of the Hamiltonian. So this is a very nice result. So you have the propagator, you spatially integrate it, you get a function g of t. That function g of t actually depends on the information of the propagator. Now you take the Fourier transform of that function g of t, get g of omega, and g of omega is basically this expression. And from the of this expression, you can just read off the energy eigenvalues of the Hamiltonian. So this is a very nice result that we have now. So these are the properties of the propagator that I wanted to discuss. So this finishes this part. Now we shall go on to develop the expression for the path integral. Okay. So let us start developing the expression for the path integral. So you have any questions now?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Are you listening? Sir, I think there should be a negative sign in the last line.
Which line?
Because there is a negative behind the limit, before the limit, at the g omega expression at
Yes,
the end.
that is why this C h bar cancels, minus I cancels. So now you have a negative sign. So this will make this minus E plus. This will become minus, and this will become plus.
Yes, that is. But you have written another minus at the before the limit, so that's why I am telling that it should be a negative extra minus should coming in the.
No, I don't think
at
there
the
is an
end.
extra minus. I don't think there is an extra minus. You just check it. You can check it yourself. I have given you the steps, right? Okay. Even if there is a minus sign, that will be an overall minus sign, so it is not important. But as far if you define the function g of omega in this way, then you will not get any minus sign. This will be your final result. Please check it yourself.
Sir, the line before the last line, if you can check that there will be 1 by em minus e.
So this minus will not be probably there.
Yeah, that's in type, I think.
This will not be there. Okay. Now it is fine.
No, sir.
Huh?
Sir, I think there will be em minus epsilon even if you check the step before the last step. I mean the right
No, sir,
hand
it's
side
correct
last.
now.
So it's correct.
No, sir,
it's
it's
correct.
correct. It's correct right
Fine.
now.
This one. You are not. I'm not getting any reply now.
Sir,
It's correct now.
So what is the problem, Shoham? I don't understand.
Sir, right hand side last step. Right hand side last step.
This one.
Right hand side, yes, sir. The minus minus cancels, and there is a minus e plus em in the bracket. That minus never goes away. I am saying that.
E minus em.
That is em minus e, and minus minus cancels in the numerator and denominator.
You do the calculation now. You can see this minus cancels.
Yes,
Right?
sir. And in the bracket there is em minus e actually, not e minus em.
But when you are putting the limit, there is an extra minus for.
I changed this to plus e. Please do the calculation. This is very trivial. I don't know why you are
Okay, sir.
so much. You do the calculation now. You can see whatever you find. This is very trivial. It's a very trivial integral. And whatever this result is correct. I know this result is correct. If you define the Fourier transform with a plus sign, please do the calculation. This is a very simple calculation. Okay? So I think here you should not have any confusion. Please do your calculation. If I miss a sign, tell me later on. I don't think I missed any sign over here. Okay. So these are the results that I wanted to discuss. Results involving the propagator. Now, let us now come back to the expression of the propagator. So this is the expression of the propagator, and this we have seen that this is nothing but the overlap of QFT QY0. Okay. So today what we shall do is we shall do the following. We shall put in complete set of states. So your full time interval is basically T. The way in which we have defined the time interval is capital T, right? Okay. Can you hear?
Yes,
me? Okay. So your time interval is capital T, and we define we divide the time interval into n steps of equal size. N number of steps of equal size. Each time slice is epsilon. Therefore, the time after m intervals, this will be nothing but m epsilon. And also, you can immediately see that if I put small m is equal to capital N, then Tn is basically n into epsilon, and n into epsilon is the total time interval, which is capital T. Further, Qn is basically Qf. Q0 is Qy, and T0 is 0. So what we are doing today is the following. You remember the diagram that we had, that we drew in the first lecture probably. So this direction is Q, and this is the time direction. And we have, this is the time slice at capital T, and this is time t is equal to 0 slice. And the particle initially is at Qi, and the final position of the particle is Qf at time capital T. So what we are doing is, we are dividing this into time slices. This time slice is T n minus 1. This is T0, this is T1, this is T2, and so on, and you go up, where Tn is basically equal to m epsilon. So m runs from 0, 1, 2, dot, dot, dot to capital N, with T capital N becoming capital T, and T0 is 0, the initial time. So now what is happening is the following. From Qi, at the time Ti, the particle can go to this position. It can go here, it can go here, it can go here, whatever place it can go. From here, from this point it can go to T2, it can go to this point, it can go to this point. There can be several other possibilities. From this also it can go to this point, this point, this point. From this point also it can go to several, infinite. There are infinitely many possibilities, and so on. And finally it will reach at this point. So this physical picture can be written down mathematically the following way. What we can do is we can insert complete set of states. So I'll just, this is basically, we just remove this one. This is basically K. So this was our notation. Okay. So now this is Qi, 0, and now we shall introduce complete set of states at every position. So what we shall do is, we shall do the following: dq n minus 1 dot 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 dq1. This will be qf comma t q n minus 1 n minus 1. So this is an identity that we are inserting at the time slice tn minus 1 and so on. And then finally we have q1 t1 q1 t1 qi. So what we have done is we have inserted a complete set of states at each time slice. At the time slice t1, there is a complete set of states. So dq1 times this thing, this is basically identity. Then we have q2 t2 and so on. And at the last time slice, which is tn minus 1, we have inserted a complete set of states, which is qn minus 1 is this. So this is also identity. So this picture basically boils down to this mathematical expression basically boils down to the following expression. Why? Because from qi0 to q1 t1, this is basically the propagator from qi0 to q1 t1. This is the propagator. And it is integrated over all possible q1. See, dq1 there is an integral. So the particle from here can go to this point, can go to any point on this time slice, because all q1s are integrated over. Then from q1 t1 to q2 t2, if we go from this point to this point, and all possible integrations are allowed over q2, and so on. So this gives you this picture. Now you can just combine this in a nice form. You can write this as I is equal to 0, I is equal to 1, to capital N minus 1, dqi. So this gives you this product over from I is equal to 1 to n minus 1. So this is this measure. And then you can combine all these expressions in the following way. N is equal to 0, n minus 1. So this is what we have. You can check that this expression is indeed the same expression as this one, because n is equal to 0. It will give us what? It will be q0 t0, but q0 is qi and t0 is 0. So this is q0 t0 and this will be q1 t1. So this gives you this expression. If you carry on throughout, then this will, when n is in capital N minus 1, this will be qn minus 1, tn minus 1, and this will be qn tn, but qn is qf and t capital N is tf, is capital T. T capital N is capital T. So you can write this expression in a compact form in this way. This is what we have done. And if I take this limit n tending to infinity, just look at this expression. If I take n tending to infinity over here and epsilon going to 0 with t fixed. So if I take n tending to infinity with t fixed, then epsilon goes to 0, or epsilon going to 0 limit with t fixed, it means that we take capital N to be infinity. It means that we are dividing this time interval into infinitely many time slices. Each of the time slices are infinitesimally, their time interval is infinitesimally small. So there are infinitely many time slices from this initial time to this final time. Now let us look at this expression. Let us evaluate this expression. Let us take this expression, qm plus 1, tm plus 1, qm, tm. This is obviously in the Heisenberg representation. Therefore, I can write this as Qm Hamiltonian so this is what we have. This is an infinitesimal time slice. So Pm plus 1 will be what? Pm plus 1 is n plus 1 epsilon. So therefore, Pm plus 1 minus Pm will be equal to this minus this. So this will give us epsilon. So this factor is basically epsilon. And what we do is we take epsilon going to zero limit. So let us expand this now. So
Sir, that factor should be Qm plus 1 in the bra.
which one? Which factor?
Last line.
Qm
I mean, in the last line. Yes.
Yes,
that
thank
should
you.
be
Thank you. This will be m plus 1. Very good. Qm plus 1. Very good. So this will be Qm plus 1. And now I can expand this. If I expand it, I will get an identity minus I by h bar h hat. Please notice that this h hat over here is an operator still. This is an operator. Please notice that this is still an operator h hat, and therefore you can write this as q hat and p, something like this. So this is basically an operator. I will just drop this thing for the time being. And then I have epsilon, and since epsilon is small, the rest of the terms are order epsilon square, and these are Qm. So this is what we have. And now this is so not this one. So Qm plus 1, Qm plus 1, Qm, comma Tm. This is basically equal to so at this point you can do another thing. Let me do it before writing it in this way. Let me do it at this stage itself. See, you have this expression, and now what I shall do is I shall put in a complete set of momentum states. So this will be Q m plus 1, then Pm, but mind you, this is at m that we are inserting a complete set of momentum states. This is also Pm. So you can actually do it at this step itself. Before expanding also, you can do it after expanding, but you can do it at this step itself. So let me insert this at this step. So this is basically minus I by h bar, h hat, epsilon, and Qm. So we have inserted a momentum, complete set of momentum eigenstates. Therefore, you see that this Hamiltonian is an operator, but I can bring this operator by using the commutation relation among p's and q's. I can bring all the p's to the left of the q's. Okay, so in the Hamiltonian operator, all the q's will be on the right hand side and they will act on this qm, and all the p's will be on the left hand side, so they will act on these p's. And therefore, this can be done by using the commutation relation among the p's and q's. Therefore, what we have is ppm, ppm, pm, and once we do this, the Hamiltonian now becomes an ordinary function, which is a number. You can see that now the Hamiltonian here has become an ordinary number. It has the Hamiltonian has acted on the momentum eigenstates, and the Q's have acted on the position eigenstates, and now it is a function. The Hamiltonian is a function of PMs and QMs. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is the entire philosophy of doing the path integral formulation. Now you see in this entire expression, there are no operators hanging around. Only numbers are present. So this is something very important. This is the whole philosophy of this formalism. So you have this number sitting over here, and therefore since this is a number, you can take it out, you can keep it anywhere. What we shall do now is this 2m plus 1 pm, and this full thing is basically pm qm exponential minus I by h bar. So this is what we have. Okay. You can do it by expanding also and then re-exponentiating. That is also okay. You can do it in this way also. So finally you will get this answer. So we have this result. This is for the infinitesimal overlap from qm tm to qm plus 1 tm plus 1. So this is our expression. Now you look at these overlaps, pm, qm. Let us concentrate on these overlaps. So if we remember that P hat acting on P is P. Therefore, if I take a position representation, what we will get is minus I h bar del del x, x p is equal to p x p. If you solve this differential equation, this is a first order differential equation. If you solve this, then you will get something like this. Right? So this will be the overlap of P with X. And if you do a Dirac-Delta normalization, what we will have is 1 by 2 pi h bar square. So now you have the expression for this overlap and for this overlap. Let us just plug this expression over here. If you do that, then you will get this is equal to integral ppm. We have 2 pi h bar exponential by h bar pm now I can combine this expression with this one. This will become Hamiltonian. This Hamiltonian is now, by the way, this is a function. You should remember it, that this is now no more an operator. This is a function of Pm and Qm. This, and you have a epsilon over here. All these integrals are from minus infinity to plus infinity. Therefore, we have evaluated this infinitesimal propagator. We shall now insert this thing in the expression that we had. So you remember that QF T Qy, 0, this was basically product I is equal to 1, 2n minus 1, dqy. So this is from dq1 and so on to dqn minus 1, and then we had this one, n minus 1, n is equal to 0. Overlap with q and pm. So this is the expression that we had written down, and now we have the expression for this one. We have just now evaluated it. We shall just insert that expression there, and if we do it, get something like this. dqy product m is equal to 0 to n minus 1, and this expression is basically dpm by 2 pi h bar exponential So this is the thing that we get after inserting this expression in this expression. So we can now just open all this up and write it in an expanded form. If we do that, what we see is the following. We'll have a dp n minus 1 by 2 pi h bar dq n minus 1 dot dot dot, then we will have dp 1 by 2 pi h bar dq1. So dq1 to dqn minus 1 and dp1 by 2 pi h bar to dpn minus 1. But you have now an extra p0 integral. There is no q0c. There is no q0 here, but you have an extra p0 integral. This is coming automatically because m runs from 0 to capital N minus 1. This is automatic. So you have an extra dp0 integral, and this is obviously by 2 pi h bar is always there. And so this is a product of these expressions, and therefore we are now writing it in an expanded form. Therefore, what we will get over here is we will get a summation over here, which runs from m is equal to 0 to n minus 1. This is also automatic because this was from n is equal to 0 to n minus 1, and product of such expressions. Therefore, if you expand this thing, write it in a full-fledged form, then all these expressions will add up in the exponential. All these things are numbers, therefore they will add up in the exponential, and you will get a summation from m is equal to 0 to capital N minus 1, and we will have p n q n plus 1 minus q n minus Hamiltonian. So this is the final expression that we have now. So this is, so far you should notice that we have not assumed any particular form of the Hamiltonian. We have not assumed anything here. We have just kept a very arbitrary function for the Hamiltonian, which is basically a function of the momentum and the coordinates. So it's a function Pm and Qm, and we have carried out the entire analysis. So at the end of the day, what we get is the following. After doing this exercise, what you get is the following. We have obtained UF E EY0 to be equal to, I can write this. So there are P1, P0, so there are momentum integrals. So let me write it in this form. I is equal to 1 to n minus 1 dqy product j is equal to 0 to n minus 1 dpj by 2 by h bar, and then you have exponential I by h bar. This is what we have. This is the expression that we have at the end of the day. And now we shall take, as I mentioned earlier, that epsilon goes to 0 and therefore n goes to infinity with t fixed. If we take this limit, then you can see that in this limit, I can take this epsilon outside. I can take this epsilon outside. There is a division by epsilon. And now I take this limit, epsilon going to 0 and n tending to infinity. In this limit, I can formally write this expression as the following: dq dp ui 0. This is qf comma t. This is exponential I by h bar. So this summation now becomes an integral. So this becomes 0 to t. This epsilon is infinitesimally small time interval. So this becomes dt, and this becomes p. This is n plus 1 minus n by epsilon. So this becomes q dot minus h p. So what in the last step what we have done is we have taken these limits and we have formally written this dqi as, so you can write this in this way also, you can write this in this way also, whatever you want. You can put this over here, uft ui0, or the way in which I wrote it down earlier, dq dt with the bracket. This is basically a functional measure, and this integral is a functional integral. And I hope that you have some exposure to what a functional is. If not, I will explain what a functional is in your coming classes in the subsequent lectures. But you must have encountered what a functional is in classical mechanics. For example, the action is basically a function null of q. Right? So this you must have seen earlier when you have read classical mechanics. So why it is called a functional, that we will see later on. But for the time being, you just remember that this is the expression. A formal way of writing this expression is the following. This expression is just a shorthand notation for writing this expression and nothing else. But the inner meaning of this full expression is the following. It is basic. It means that this is a functional integral. Why? Because you have q's and you have p's, and you are integrating all q's. There are infinitely many q's because n is infinity, right? So there are infinitely many qi's, infinitely many p's, and here all these infinitely many q's and infinitely many p's are being integrated from minus infinity to plus infinity. So you can understand that this is an infinite dimensional integral, and such infinite dimensional integrals are called functional integrals, and the notation for functional integral is the following: dq dt. And over here also you can see that this expression that we have written down, this is basically nothing but the action. This is the action in the Hamiltonian form, right? And this action is also a functional, and you can see it is a functional of p and q, right? This action is basically a functional of pt and qt. So this is the action in the Hamiltonian form. This is a functional of pt and qt, and this action which is a functional of Pt and Qt is being integrated over this functional measure. This basically means it is an integration over all possible paths Qt's and Pt's in the phase space, weighted by this factor e to the power of I by h bar action. So this is the physical meaning of this expression of this propagator. It is an integral over all possible paths in the phase space, all possible paths Pt and Qt in the phase space, weighted by this exponential factor e to the power of I by h bar times integral 0 to t dt times this. And why we have kept this notation qi0 and qft, it basically reminds us of this fact that all possible paths q's actually ends at the point qi at time t is equal to 0, and it ends at the point qf at time t. So these are the boundary conditions that we have. So that is why in the functional measure we keep this notation qi0 is equal to qft. So this is very, very important. It tells you where the final paths, what are the endpoints of these paths are. This path integral, so this expression, this is a sum over all possible paths that are possible, weighted by this exponential factor, this action, e to the power of I by h bar action. This is a functional integral, so this is an infinite dimensional integral, and this particular form of the functional integral is called a Hamiltonian or phase space path integral, because this is a sum over all paths in phase space. So that is why it is called a phase space path integral.
Sir,
Yes, just a minute. So this is also called a Hamiltonian or phase space path integral. Yes, please.
in the previous line before the last line that you have introduced the j notation, so should not the m replaced by j all the
Which one? This line?
Yes, so you have introduced, there is no, I mean, you have in integration there is j notation, j is summed over from 0 to n minus 1, so in the exponential you have written m, so it should be j, I think.
No, I don't understand this. You just remember that these are in brackets. And just repeat once more.
In the previous line you have written everything in the m, and then you have changed the m variable to j. So I thought that the exponential factor there is m also should change to be j.
No, because m is, see, whether you write m here or you write j here or you write m here or j here is irrelevant, because these are dummy indices. Okay? These are dummy indices. You can write whatever you like. You can write k also. It is up to you.
But it is integrated over those p1 and pj. So
yes, if you expand this, if you expand it, what it has p0, so there is an integral over p0. If you expand this, you have a p1, so there is a p1 here also, so it is integrated over p1, and so on. So you are free to use whatever notation you like. So today what we have done is we have developed the expression for the path integral, and let us do one more thing and then stop for today. We shall now try. See, so far as I mentioned, we have not taken any form of the Hamiltonian. The form of the Hamiltonian function is completely arbitrary, and I once again stress the fact that in the path integral there are no operators now. All these are numbers. So this is the advantage. You are not working with any operators anymore. You don't need to work with them. So also we have not taken any form for this Hamiltonian function. And let us see how far we can proceed. Later on, we shall take a form for the Hamiltonian function. Let us try to do the P integral now. Let us try to do the P integral. This is dqt, dqt. To do the P integral, the P functional integral rather, we shall use something which is known as the stationary phase approximation. So what this stationary phase approximation means is that it basically tells us that this functional integral will be dominated by the point of stationary phase. So the point where this is known as the stationary phase approximation. So the point where this is your phase, and you just extremize it. You extremize it, and you find and you evaluate the p integral, the p functional integral at that point. That point where the phase is extremized, that point is called the stationary point. So that is the stationary phase approximation. So in the stationary phase approximation, what we have is we take del del p of that phase. So we just extremize it. See, in the integral, this is the point of stationary phase. So you extremize that point, but there may be fluctuations about that point also. There are fluctuations. But why this is an approximation? Because we are ignoring such fluctuations. We are only taking the point where this phase is stationary. So by that I mean that the point where the phase is stationary, it basically means that you just extremize this expression with respect to p. Why with respect to p? Because I want to extremize, I want to carry out the p functional integral. So this is equal to 0. So the point where the phase is stationary will be given by this expression. So if you carry out this, we get q dot minus del del p of h eq. This is again some function of f p comma q. Del del p of h p q is some function of f p comma q, and therefore this implies that q dot is equal to f p comma q. You can invert this relation and write it in this form: p as a function of q and q dot. So what happens in the stationary phase approximation is that the momentum gets related to the velocity. So this is what happens in the stationary phase approximation. And if you use this approximation, where the momentum gets related to the velocity, you can now immediately carry out this functional, p functional integral, the integral over all possible momentums. So how to do that? So from this expression, you see p has been related to q and q dot by this function. Therefore, what we shall do is dq dt since p is related in this way, I shall put a delta function null now. It is not a delta function, it is a delta function null. So I shall put a delta function null, and whenever I have this function null, see function we use this notation f of x. But function null, if you remember the action notation, you don't use s as a function of x, the round brackets. Rather, we use this square brackets to denote that s is a function null of q. So we shall put a delta function null over here. Since p is related to this, and then we have p to the power of I by h bar eq dot minus h e. So as in ordinary delta function integrals, you now have a delta function null integral. So since we have a delta function null integral, you can now carry out that, and then what will happen is that the functional integral over p will go away, and all the p's will will get replaced by this function g, and therefore we will have this expression, final expression, is equal to dq t qft exponential dt. P is basically g of q dot minus h is g of q dot comma q. So this is what we have. This particular function is basically a function of q and q dot. There are no p's over here because we have carried out the p functional integral, and therefore you can write this as d qt e to the power of I by h bar 0 to t L q dot v. And this is the action in the Lagrangian form. This was the action in the Hamiltonian form, which is basically a functional of p and q, and therefore you have functional integrals over p's and q's. Now in this action, you have this Lagrangian, which is a function of q and q dot, and therefore this integral over this Lagrangian is a functional of q. S is a functional of q, and you have a functional integral, functional measure sitting over here, which basically tells you that this is a functional integral over all possible paths in the configuration space. So this is the Lagrangian form of the path integral, which is a functional integral or an infinite dimensional integral. It is an integral over all possible paths in the configuration space. And the previous thing that we derived was a Hamiltonian form of the path integral or a phase-space form of the path integral, where the functional integral is over all possible paths in the phase space, over all possible paths q's and all possible paths p's, all possible paths in the phase space. The Hamiltonian form is the Lagrangian form. And you should remember that we have not assumed any form of the Hamiltonian function so far. To come from the Hamiltonian form of the path integral to the Lagrangian form of the path integral, what we have done is we have taken a stationary phase approximation, which basically means that the integral, functional integral, is dominated by the point of stationary phase. And at the point of stationary phase, we have, this is the phase, pq dot minus hpq. You just extremize this phase with respect to p, and once you extremize this phase with respect to p, the momentum gets related to the velocity, and this is basically the stationary phase approximation. You carry out this momentum integral by putting in a delta functional here. Use the property of the delta functional, carry out the momentum p functional integral, and you end up with this thing. So this is all about the path integral, the main result. So the propagator that you have, you can see it gets related to an infinite dimensional integral or a path integral, which basically means it is an integral over all possible paths in the configuration space qt, weighted by the factor e to the power of I by h bar action, where this action is the Lagrangian form of the action because it is a functional of qt. And this we get after you do this stationary phase approximation. This is the full form. Here there is no approximation involved. This is the phase space form of the path integral. So okay, so I think today we have developed the path integral, and in the next class we shall try to proceed with this form of the path integral, with the Lagrangian form of the path integral. So I think it is a good place to stop here today. So maybe if you have some questions at this point, you can ask. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if you have, do you have any questions at this moment?
No.
So,
No, sir.
okay. So very good. So I think I will once again give the link of the video of today's lecture to Shom, and Shom can circulate this this link of this video file to all your friends, and you can just watch once again. You can just see the lecture, today's lecture, and if you have any doubts, it would be very nice if you can just send me an email. Then I can just try to answer if you have any doubt regarding anything. But I think if, whatever has been discussed in these lectures so far, in these 3 lectures, you just try to work these things out yourself, and then you will get confident about the things that are being discussed in the lecture. So you just try to work it out yourself. That will be fine.
Yes.
So let us end today. Okay. If you have any questions, so let us end today. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.